Hi, I'm Urvashi. My blog is TwoSleevers.com, and I am going to show you how to use your Instant Pot to do pot-and-pot cooking, which is going to open up a whole new, huge, big, magic, delicious world for you. So I did a video on this 2 years ago. The lighting was absolutely crap, and I talked for too long. So we're going to do this again, and I'm going to explain how this works. Okay, you should trust me because I actually know what I'm doing for Instant Pot cooking. I have 3 Instant Pot cookbooks: Instant Pot Fast and Easy, Keto Instant Pot, Indian Instant Pot, all authorized by Instant Pot, and actually all bestsellers. Here's how pot and pot cooking works. So a pressure cooker, as you know, typically what you would do is you would put your food in here and you would cook it. And you would cook one dish at a time. So you might make a stew, you might make some kind of a butter chicken maybe. However, there is a way to be able to cook more than one dish at the same time in the pressure cooker, and that's what's called pot and pot cooking. Why would you bother? So let me give you the basics of how you do this. The basics of how you do this is you take this pot, you put a couple of cups or maybe a cup and a half of water in the center here, because that water, as it heats, is going to create steam. That steam is going to create pressure. That pressure is what's going to reduce the boiling point of water, and that's how your food is going to cook faster. Now in pot and pot cooking, what you would do is you would put either water or food at the bottom. You would then get a trivet or a steamer rack and put that on here. And then you would put food in another pot in here. Many times this food in the smaller pot will also have water. So let me give you an example of when you would and would not use water in this pot. If you are making something that absorbs water, such as anything starchy, potatoes, pasta, rice, beans, at the very least, those things absorb water. So you want, for example, you couldn't just put rice in here without putting water in here. You would want it to be able to steam. On the other hand, if you're making something really fast like fish or vegetables, those things would be able to be cooked with just steaming. So think of this, forget about the pressure cooker for a minute. Just think about the stuff that you can steam and the stuff that you can't steam. What's happening in here is essentially it's either steaming or it's cooking. So if it's an item that on the stovetop you wouldn't put water to steam, you do not have to put water in here to steam it. If it's an item that on the stovetop you would put water to cook it, you probably need the water in here. That's a good way to remember it. There are 4 reasons, at least, that I know of why you would do this. One is because, as I mentioned earlier, you can cook multiple things at the same time. You can make butter chicken at the bottom, you can make rice on top. You can make beans at the bottom, and then you could make potentially brown rice on the top. So there's a variety of things that you can mix and match, and that allows you to cook 2 things at the same time. The second reason that you would want to do that is to slow down cooking. Now, I know you bought the Instant Pot or a pressure cooker because you wanted to speed up cooking. Why would you want to slow it down? The only reason you would want to slow it down is because you were trying to cook 2 different items together. I'm going to explain that. The third reason for using pot and pot cooking is because it effectively works like a de facto water bath. If you've ever cooked something in the oven in a water bath, like a cheesecake or a custard, we can talk more about that in half a minute. And then the other reason that you might want to do that is because you might be cooking or quote baking something that doesn't have a lot of water in it, and you want to steam a custard or you want to steam a cake. What kind of things can you cook at the same time? Well, typically you can cook things at the same time that have roughly the same amount of cooking time. So for example, the butter chicken recipe that I have, it takes about 10 minutes to cook the chicken. Well, if you were cooking rice by itself in the pot, the rice would take 4 minutes to cook. Because you are elevating it, you're removing it from the direct source of heat at the bottom, it's going to slow down the cooking, and that rice, which would ordinarily have taken 4 or 5 minutes, now can be left in there for 10 minutes. I have a chicken biryani recipe where we're cooking, rice and chicken at the same time. The way I manage that is by cutting the chicken into small bites. So you could do the same thing here. So here's an important principle. In order to cook things at the same time, they must have the same cook times. They must be cut up into pieces that will cook at the same time. And the thing that takes the longest to cook needs to go into the pot. The thing that takes a shorter time to cook needs to be elevated. You're moving it away from the direct source of heat at the bottom, elevating it, and that is what is going to retard the cooking time. Sometimes you're only making one thing. Like for example, I just want to steam broccoli, or I just want to steam a few asparagus tips, and I don't have time to babysit it. I'm running around, I'm trying to do 6 other things. Usually in my case, I'm on a conference call for work, and I cook when I'm on conference calls because come on, who doesn't do something else when they're on conference calls? I could play solitaire or I could cook. I cook. You're cooking something that's really, really delicate. You want to make a fish. You want to make, steamed broccoli. You want to make something without a ton of water in it. In that situation, when you're trying to make a dry dish, I actually have a sesame ginger chicken recipe on the blog where I use that technique, where I want the resultant product to be dry-ish, but at the same time, I want to pressure cook it. So in that case, in the sesame ginger chicken salad, I wanted to pressure cook the chicken, but I needed to be able to shred that chicken and put it into a salad, so I did not need a soup. Okay, in that case, what am I going to do? I'm going to put not another dish at the bottom, no, not another piece of food at the bottom. I'm simply going to put water. I'm going to put this up here, and then I'm going to put, let's say, something like this. By the way, I'm going to do a separate video on the accessories that you need, but on the blog, there's a thing about must-have Instant Pot accessories, which are the ones that I use. So let's say I want to steam broccoli. I'm going to put a cup of water, a cup and a half in the bottom. I'm going to put a rack on here, and I'm going to put either this or a silicone basket on top. And I'm going to put the broccoli in here, and I'm going to let it steam. The other thing the other situation where you might use an elevated thing is to boil eggs. So everybody has their own ways of doing it, 5-5-5 method, 2 and 20 method, whatever. You figure it out what works well for you. But in that situation, you would put water at the bottom. You would use a rack like this. You would probably stick eggs into this thing. This is actually an egg rack, and then you would make your eggs. I'll give you 2 other tips how you can retard cooking times. One is to actually take whatever the food is and wrap it in foil. Foil doesn't conduct heat very well. It protects that. So sometimes what I'll do, for example, is I will take and put rice at the bottom, and let's say that I want to do broccoli on top. I'll take that broccoli and I'll wrap it in foil, and that it takes longer for that broccoli to get hotter, and so you can retard cooking times by wrapping it in foil. The third way in which you can slow down cooking so that you can cook multiple items at the same time is to use frozen food. I do this a lot with vegetables. I don't defrost my vegetables. I just kind of, take frozen ones and put them right in there. Let's talk about the thing that people love to use their Instant Pot for, which is cheesecakes. Cheesecakes are a glorious thing. I have a keto cheesecake recipe on the blog. I have a lemon ricotta cheesecake recipe on the blog. Those are fantastic. The reason that works is that you're putting water at the bottom, you're elevating this, and you're creating this full steam environment. And that steamed environment allows your food to cook with indirect heat and not direct heat. So if you're cooking a custard with really high heat, the custard is going to curdle and it's going to lump, versus putting it in a water bath. So in an oven, the equivalent is going to be you take a pot, you take a baking pan, you put water in it, and then you put your cheesecake on top. That's essentially what's happening here. Another situation where I use this as a steam bath, if you will, is when I make caramel custard. So if you look on the TwoSleevers blog, there's a recipe for caramel custard. By the way, I'm going to put links to all of these recipes that I'm mentioning in the bottom. But in that situation, what's happening is I'm putting water at the bottom, I'm putting a custard on top, I'm closing it. I'm not even actually sealing the pot at that point. I'm leaving it to venting. Essentially, all I'm doing is creating a moist, steamy, humid environment in here, and that indirect heat is going to be able to cook my custards. So really, really good situation where you want to use that. So the fourth situation where you want to use pot and pot cooking is for, quote, baking. So I use it a lot to make cakes. I've got a gluten-free chocolate cake that's very popular. I have a keto almond carrot cake that's really popular. I've also made, by the way, cakes from packages. I've made cornbread from packages. If you look up the apple cake on the TwoSleevers blog, you'll see how I use a small package of cake mix and a few sliced apples to make something that looks really, really pretty. So in that situation, what's happening is it really baking the cake? It's not. It's steaming the cake. Does the cake come out like moist and gummy? It's kind of interesting. You know what? It's moist, but it's not gummy. And I don't know how to explain this. It has the texture of really light cake. But that moist environment with indirect heat causes it to have a very light sort of texture and a nice crumb that comes with it. And there's a moistness to it that is really, really delicious. Let's talk about the types of materials that do well in here. Okay, I'm straight up going to tell you my bias. Do not use glass in here. So there's a whole discussion about borosilicate versus not. Is it safe? Is it not? You know what? The fact of the matter is most of us don't know if our glass is borosilicate or not. Pyrex does no longer means heat-proof glass. My preferences are actually aluminum. See how much use this has gotten. See how grubby it is. It's grubby not because it's dirty, but because it was aluminum that I put into the dishwasher, which you're not supposed to do. But hey. I'm a real person. I have to use a dishwasher. I hate doing dishes. So I use aluminum, and then I use stainless steel, which again, aluminum and stainless steel are lightweight. They conduct heat really quickly. They retain heat really quickly. And I use silicone when I'm using baskets, etc., or when I'm using a lid. Many people are not wanting to run out and make a huge investment in utensils to put inside here because they're not sure they're going to use it. You know, you already have a small kitchen. Buy yourself these. These little aluminum containers, I use these a lot. So this, by the way, is a small mini loaf pan. It'll make a half a cup of rice really, really easily. And you can actually fit 2 in here. Okay, let's talk about sizes. So this is a 6-quart Instant Pot. Pretty much anything you want in here is going to be about 6 to 7 inches across and no more than 3 or 4 inches tall. So 6 by 3, 6 by 4, 6 by 2, those kind of containers fit really, really well. If you have an Instant Pot Mini, which I do and I love, the widest one it's going to take is a 5-inch to 6-inch pot. So it's not going to go 7 inches at all. And you can't do anything that's more than 1 or 2 inches in a mini. 4 reasons why you would do it. To cook multiple items at the same time. You can do so many different varieties of food at the same time. You can do it, you can elevate something that is a delicate cooking item, just steam it, just cook it at the same time as something else. You can use it as a water bath for custards and cheesecakes, and you can use it to, quote, bake items. Lots of recipes on the blog, TwoSleevers.com, for this, and I hope this was helpful for you to watch. I'm going to do another video on the accessories that you need, but please watch the other videos on cooking in a pressure cooker, including a video on the Maillard reaction, why you don't need to brown, and how to adapt recipes to a pressure cooker, which, by the way, I have it in a 3-part series. I'm going to redo that, but you can watch those videos right now. I also have another video on why did I get the burn signal in my Instant Pot. You can watch that. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for watching. Please be sure to subscribe. Thank you.